Welcome back to the Dreamlet Podcast. This is episode 8, and this is the first time one of the previous guests has been brought back. I brought back my friend Christine.
Hi guys, nice to meet you guys again, or.
Today, I wanted to talk about a concept that I sort of coined the law of fulfillment. I haven't really heard about it before, but it sort of just hit me at a certain moment in my life. And the basic concept of it is, in your life, different people fulfill different aspects of what you would want in terms of your social life. And for me, I came to this realization because I put a lot of emotion on a single person that I cared a lot about. And I feel like because it wasn't reciprocated, a lot of emotions were hurt and a lot of negative feelings were felt. But at a certain point, when I was telling one of my closest friends about it and sort of venting to her and her consoling me and everything, I realized, dang, I have like a really great friend right now who's like literally telling me that she's there for me and will help me through this. And it made me think about how, I also have other friends where, yes, I hang out with this friend a lot. I get to talk to them a lot. I also have a different friend that like is there physically and makes me feel less alone in terms of that. And then a different friend that mainly is primarily hangouts. I don't really talk to them about like deeper things. So I started thinking a lot of different aspects of my life require different people. And it's not just this one person that I should put all of my emotional dependency on for me to feel like fulfilled. And that's sort of where the concept comes from. So like, what do you think about it?
I think you have a very interesting take on it. And when you first told me about the law of fulfillment, I think one of my immediate thoughts was, and maybe I'm sure you've heard of this somewhere, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. So that is where my mind immediately went to, just thinking about who in my current social circle fills up those hierarchy of needs for me. So that's the way I took it. And I think it's very true, because the people you surround yourself with is the people like that you emulate your personality to, and whatever you need, because otherwise why would you keep them around?
Right. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm curious, like, do you know exactly how it works? It's like a pyramid, right?
Right. So there is the very basic. The lowest one is, I think, physiological needs, which is very basic, like survivability. Like you need fire, food, water, shelter, whatever. I think the second one is similar to that. Yeah, safety needs, to make sure that you feel safe and secure within, your surroundings or environment. I think the next one is like a belonging and love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and then it goes into more like mental, right? It goes into more like emotional stability. So it's first taking care of physical needs, and then mental, and then the last one is self-actualization, where it's like who you are, you're trying to be your best self type of thing. And so that's kind of how I viewed it when you first told me about law of fulfillment.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think for me, it's primarily just in the category of love and belonging. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really have to do with anything else. It's just a whole friendship thing, because I feel like it would be really cool to have a best friend that fulfills all your needs, I guess, right? But that's also probably going to end up being someone like your significant other as well. But at the same time, putting all your needs into one person can be dangerous, I feel. Having multiple friends for different purposes is sort of what like this whole thing is about. And I guess we can start by talking about some examples.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I might stray from that a little bit, but yeah, let me give you some examples. I think the first one, and speaking towards my interpretation of it, which is sort of like the Maslow hierarchies of needs and whatnot, I think the first fulfillment that I have to say is really what built who I am, the core of who I am today, is from my mom. So not necessarily a friend, but I can definitely view her as one, especially a mentor. I think one of the pivotal moments that I had with her, I remember interviewing her for like a class. It was a college paper, and it was about like human psychology, something like that. And I think the topic was like, how how did we get here to, you know, America and become who we are today. And so my mom, I had never ever asked her this. She also never told me. I had asked her about her immigration story. And when she told me like the things that she had to go through, I was genuinely shocked because I didn't know that my mom had gone through so much to be where we are today. I definitely took everything for granted. You know, I was born in America. I was not born out of the country. And all I knew was like, you know, you got to work hard. You got to save every penny you can and, you know, find like a second thing to do for any object you have, something like that. So she told me that when she first immigrated, it was during like the Vietnam War. And she had to escape for, you know, a better life with my dad. And one of the things was that my mom was part of a pretty wealthy family. They are in like the plastic business. Wow. They do like a bunch of plastic bags, you know, whatever plastic they have, you name it. That's what they do. And the thing is, my dad was not wealthy at all. He was on the streets, like selling candy, and like he was poor. He was, yeah.
That sounds kind of like interesting, on the streets selling candy.
Yeah, and like I always wondered, like, you know, like why did you pick my dad? But he, like my mom said that he was hardworking. He ended up being a teacher. Like he showed her that he would, you know, go to the ends of the earth to provide a better future. So my mom ended up immigrating with my dad in the midst of the Vietnam War. And she told me that when that happened, she was pregnant with my sister, my older sister. Wow. And so she had to crawl through mud and like crawl through like the forest, while pregnant. She was, I think like 6-7 months pregnant. But she just told me she had a belly, and she remember like crawling through the mud and like scratches on her belly. Like she wasn't able to lift herself up at some times, and it was really scary for her. It was like raining, like they had to get to the ocean because they had to get to a boat. So she remembers like she finally reached the ocean. She had to be lifted up onto the boat, and she thought she was going to drown because she couldn't like swim with her pregnant belly and whatnot. And so that was like the first hurdle. The second hurdle for her was surviving the ocean. And surviving with all the people that was on board. So part of that was, I think there was around 50 or so people on board this small little boat. And I'm not sure if you remember or have thought about it, but back then there were pirates in the sea. So maybe not as prominent as today, but there was definitely pirates in the sea. And my mom was pregnant. And so one of the days while she was in sea, she realized they were being like chased down by pirates. And so the first thing that she did was hide all her jewelry. So my dad's brother, which is my uncle, he was on board and he was pretty young. So what she did was she sewed in any of the gold jewelry that she had onto like his sleeve, like I don't know, the hems of the sleeves. And she hid it in his boxers because she's like, they're not going to do anything to a child, right? But they might do something to a pregnant woman. So she hid all the jewelry on him. And I believe she did tell me there were instances where they would like rape women and whatnot. But they didn't do anything to her because she was pregnant. So she was fine. Yeah. Luckily, in the end, though, they were saved by, I think, the Malaysian Coast Guard. So they finished round 2 of this hurdle, besides, you know, the typical throwing up in sea and whatnot.
So they were actually stopped by pirates and like...
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like,
so she survived being captured by pirates.
Wow, that's crazy. What the heck? So I never imagined that would be like a real thing. I
know.
Like to know someone currently alive that has been affected or threatened by pirates. That's pretty interesting.
Right. When she told me the story, I was like, what the heck? Why have you never told? Why am I 21 years old just finding out that you went through like a mud course and then got captured by sea thugs and survived?
Sea thugs. That's intense.
But yeah, that was one of it. And luckily, my brother's or my dad's brother was very, like, he was pretty young, and he was there to take care of my mom, which was really great. Besides my dad, I think it's very rare where you immigrate with family, because a lot of people get lost. A lot of people aren't in touch with the people that they, immigrate with, or they have to go their separate ways to have the best possibility in order to survive. So luckily, my mom and her group of family that immigrated, we were able to, or they got saved by the Malaysian Coast Guard. And that's when they took refuge in Malaysia. My mom ended up giving birth in Malaysia, but she did mention, there were also like other hurdles that she had to go through there. One, she didn't speak Malaysian. One of the things she remembers distinctly is that when they set up those camps, the refugee camps, the showers would be open. So when the women shower, like anyone could see. Whoa. And there would be like men like ogling her and whatnot. And she had to be really careful about, something as simple as taking a shower. And, that's part of one of her basic needs, and feeling safe in where she's at. But other than that, she did, meet a lot of lifelong friends, people who I call like my godmother or goddad today. And I think the best part of that journey for her was definitely the people that she met, and learning like different skills, like bargaining. My mom is that Asian, she will, you'll say it's $100, she'll say 20. And so she haggled with cigarettes. She haggled it's like honestly like old school caveman type of haggling. But that was one of the skill sets that she got. And when, she told me the story and her journey about immigrating from Vietnam to America. After she got to Malaysia, she got sponsored to come over to America. So that's how we are here today. But when she told me the story, I was like, wow, you went through a lot to bring us to where we are today. And that story has forever stayed in my head, because my mom and my dad, they went through so much hardship for me to be able to have like basic needs. And I think that's one of the things that, my mom has really encompassed for me, is that she is the person who I view as someone who has taken care of me, who has given me my basic needs and, let me be able to survive in the world I am today. So I think that's kind of how I view when you said law of fulfillment.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works too, because your family is certainly an aspect to your life where I think if you have a sense of it, you feel more fulfilled. Like your mom, your dad, just having those figures in your life, or even a sibling or cousins, those are pretty important factors. And knowing where they come from and feeling like you understand them and share a bond with them, that's a whole other thing as well. So this definitely fits into the way I saw it as well in terms of this concept. Because basically, just to break it down a little bit more, like the law of fulfillment is essentially just how are you related to other people around you, and what do those people fulfill in your life. One of them is definitely family. Another one is like mentor, having someone that you can talk to, like intelligent conversations with. Another one is like having fun with them, like hangouts and stuff like that. There's a lot of different ones essentially. Like we can keep going, but those are just examples. And definitely your story about your mom and how like family is involved, it's an important one.
Right. I think it definitely is, I guess, to put it in an analogy, like my home base and my sense of community, where I feel safe enough to branch out and discover like my social needs and whatnot. Because I could always come back to this community, this home base, and still feel a sense of belonging.
Yeah. Your story, it triggered a lot of memories on my side too, because my mom would tell me stories about how it was when the Vietnam War happened for her, and my dad as well. I feel like I know more about my dad's side than my mom's side, unfortunately.
Is your mom Vietnamese?
No, she's not Vietnamese, but she was there during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Yeah. It's sort of like a similar situation where once it started, they had to migrate, get out of there.
Right.
And they ended up in America. So my dad's story, I know a little bit more of just because there was a wedding in, I think it was 2018, where he and my uncle were talking about it. And when it started, somehow my aunts and uncles, they got separated during the war. And my dad somehow ended up in Hong Kong while like my uncle and his wife like were in some sort of like camp that they had to escape. Like they were literally in prison. And it was kind of crazy, the stories that they told.
All of this is so tragic.
Yeah. But like the things that they had to go through, like they talked about how at night they escaped by crossing some river that they literally could not tell how deep it was because it was super dark and it's not like modern times where there's lights everywhere. So they could have drowned, but they just kept going to escape. And that's some crazy stuff. And they eventually found their way back together and moved to Florida, thanks to my grandfather. Like he somehow found a way to like sneak them in a boat and get them to Florida. I've always thought after hearing it that I wanted to learn more about like my family history and everything. And I feel bad that I haven't like put in that effort to really get the full story. Because right now I'm butchering it for sure.
And that's okay. Yeah. This could be, you know, a catalyst or motivation for you to get to know it. But also it sounds like the things we would read, right, Scott? Like it sounds like a novel because it is wild. Like these stories are crazy.
They are. And it's kind of interesting that you said that you're on your mom's side, like they were on the wealthier side because of the business, the plastic stuff. My mom also told me that we come from a family before China became communist, like they were actually like rich and stuff too. I don't even know how though. I don't know, like you explained it by saying like your mom had a business and everything. I just don't know how they were wealthy. So
Scott, you're butchering the story.
Yes, I am, and I will come back with like a full version eventually.
For those of you listen, this is my podcast, not Scott's.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that story because like I think it shows like knowing where we come from is a very important aspect, I feel, and I just haven't fulfilled that enough.
Yeah, this could be a start of it for sure. Because it is super interesting. Like I kind of want to dig deeper into it, but I also don't want to throw my mom into the memories of the past. You know what I mean? Like if it was something that she would prefer not to talk about or not to remember, I would definitely want to respect that. But also, you know, I can only imagine like if that happened to America, like if we actually had a war here, right, in California, I can't imagine only taking the stuff that can like fill a backpack, the stuff that I can carry, and then moving and settling into a different life in a different country somewhere. I can't imagine that. Like that is crazy hardship. Like we are spoiled right now.
It puts things into perspective for sure.
It really does. Like they had to give up like when they say they gave up everything, they really did. Like they gave up their social standing, their community, their sense of belonging. Granted, you know, they had to survive, but they did give all of that up for a better life.
And they didn't have the luxury to talk about like concepts like the law of fulfillment. Right? they had to focus on surviving.
Yeah.
I do feel very grateful for that. And what you just said now about not prying, because at a certain point in my life, I was asking my mom a lot about her history, but I guess it was sort of approached in a wrong way. I was asking about like, you know, certain happy memories or something like that. And we were like fighting a little bit beforehand, so maybe it wasn't a good time. I asked her like, what's a happy memory you used to have? Like, can we talk about that? Because oftentimes we would talk like about money and stuff like that, and I don't really like that topic. So I asked that, why can't we talk about something else? Like, can't you share a happy memory from your past? And she was like, I don't have any happy memories from my past.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I like from her childhood and stuff, I mean, and it was mostly because of a fight, I feel. And eventually she would tell me about a time that her dad brought home like a doll for her and everything. So that was a happy memory she shared. So maybe that was a long time ago. So I'm sure it's cooled off. It's fine now. And it was more of a moment of us arguing versus like, maybe that's like, she's totally willing to, you know, tell more about it. It has to be a good timing.
Yeah, and you could also approach it in a way where you're more so curious about, your mom and her past. Like, hey, mom, I really want to know how you came here, how, we came to settle in America. And I'm just generally curious about it. You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Feel free to skip certain parts. I know that, like, it's hard to do it in, like, Chinese, for sure, because your mom's like, why the fuck are you asking me? Like, there has to be an ulterior motive. Maybe your mom will be more perceptive to it this time around.
Yeah, hopefully. The family aspect of the law of fulfillment is definitely a very interesting one, because I feel like every family is so different, and ours has such a rich history. It definitely requires me to explore it a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Was there any law of fulfillment examples that you had, not necessarily pertaining to family, but something that you thought was like, it clicked in your head today, like this is a person or a group that I would have to have for like the rest of my life or something like that?
Yeah, I think during the conversation, I started to think about how each family member holds a place in your life that is an important role. Like your mom is sort of, at least my mom was sort of the one who was mostly there as the caretaker, as someone who fulfilled those basic needs like we were talking about. And oftentimes when I was younger, she would also be like that avenue for whenever I was like crying or sad or something.
Mm-hmm.
Me with my sister, I was actually sort of that person sometimes when my sister was very emotional. And I remember a lot of times at night, she would just wake me up when she had like a bad dream or couldn't go to sleep. And I would just like be there, not really saying too much, but I was there. So for me, my sister was sort of the person who guided me with fashion and also guided me with a lot of things related to how to behave socially, because she always thought I was very awkward and weird. So, and maybe I was. So getting to see her hang out with her friends helped me with that. So she shaped a lot of that. And then my dad, he was sort of the one that guided me with interest, like, oh, doing push-ups is cool, stuff like that. It's sort of like my dad was the mentor role in my life, but then after the divorce, because he was gone, that aspect of my life was no longer fulfilled. So oftentimes I would find myself like gravitating towards older males that I felt had a lot of wisdom or could teach me things. I would actually accidentally sometimes call my uncle like Daddy, which means like dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was like subliminal, like subconsciously, I was thinking they were sort of like there and fulfilling that dad role. So I do think in my life after the divorce, which was 8th grade, I would oftentimes feel like this void where I wanted some father figure to be there to guide me. So yeah, those were the things that came about when you were talking about family and how I was relating it to this whole concept.
Right. That's really nice of your sister to not be like, ew, my little brother is awkward and not, hang out with you. I'm glad she guided you, because my brother was like, hell no. And me and my brother would get into fist fights. It was
that's crazy. Like you guys were actually punching each other?
Yeah, dude. I would call him names. I would be disrespectful towards an older brother. But I mean, same thing. My brother almost went to juvie, so
oh my gosh.
My perception of my brother was like, I'll never be like you. So I'm glad your sister was there for you.
Yeah, I mean, we fought so much during the divorce period. Like so much, like almost every day to every other day. But I don't know how we still got along sometimes. I think a lot of it had to do with her boyfriend at the time. Her boyfriend at the time was almost like that older brother figure that I wanted throughout my life, because like I said, I gravitated towards like strong-willed males older than me, and he would also teach me stuff about push-ups and pull-ups and we would exercise together, we would play stuff together.
Right,
it's
so
funny,
the one takeaway, Scott, is that whoever can teach you push-ups is the one you look to.
Maybe. I mean, I'm pretty good with push-ups now, but I don't need that anymore. But I remember this memory from my sister and her boyfriend at the time. This was I think I was in 8th grade or 9th grade, and they sat me down telling me how I've changed and how I used to always play with them. Now I'm on the computer all the time. And I started like crying and stuff because I didn't understand what they were talking about. It sort of just came out of nowhere. The more they talked about it, I was trying to understand it and trying to be like, I guess so. Like I like during our hangouts, like I started to randomly go on my phone or was on the computer instead. So I told them, yeah, I understand. I get it. Even though part of me was like, no, I don't know why they're doing this to me. And then I said I would be better and stuff. Yeah, that memory just came out of nowhere just because I remember how much I cared about wanting to feel like I belonged in that group,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to sort of please them in a way. This social balance was being struck right now, and in my head I thought we were all good, but apparently not. So yeah, there's just this need to please the people that I looked up to.
I think that's also something that, I hate to say it again, but it's built into like an Asian like mentality too. Because I do feel like, at least when I was growing up, I was also a people pleaser, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because of wanting to belong that you want to please people. Like you want acceptance and you want that validation. So you end up doing, the things that they think they would like, or you think
Definitely.
they would like.
Because I feel like for me personally, I have abandonment issues.
Right.
Primarily because of my dad leaving. And I felt like I didn't want that for what was happening during that moment. Because it felt like, they were distancing me or saying that I wasn't good enough and was about to throw me away or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I needed to change. And it's funny because like when they broke up, because this isn't the same boyfriend my sister has now, I actually cried. It was like,
how long were they together?
They were together for a while. I think at least 3 years, about 3 to 4 years.
So did you take it worse than your sister did?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I just cried because I was like, I feel like an older brother is now like gone. I mean, like I could still try to talk to him and stuff, but he's not going to be there in the same sense,
Right. I can only imagine little Scott, like, how dare you break up with him?
This was in high school, actually, when they broke up. So I wasn't even that little anymore. I guess I was still a teenager, though. But I did feel really sad about it. I was just like, oh, no, like, someone that I looked up to that was, like, an older brother figure to me is now, like, no longer that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like something was gone. Which sort of brings me back to the whole law of fulfillment thing. But it's like having those roles, having people fill those roles in your life, I feel is a very important part to feeling fulfilled and feeling like you live a good, balanced social life. And when you sort of inspect it and think about what you don't have, it can help with looking for that need and filling it.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly, though, thinking about it now, I feel like I don't really have an older brother figure that's the same as my sister's boyfriend back then. I mean, I'm a lot older now compared to in high school, like 10 years of a difference. So it's like, I don't necessarily need it anymore, but it would be kind of cool. I mean, technically I do have an older brother, older half brother, but at a certain point I stopped being that person that saw my older siblings as older siblings. I sort of just thought of them as equals.
Mm-hmm.
That probably happened around the time of the divorce as well. I always fought with her. I never listened to her.
I mean, now that you mentioned, I think you mentioned earlier that you said you sort of don't need one anymore. And I was going to mention, this is a great analogy. I love analogies. I don't know if you know, but I'm a big fan of analogies. And there was one comedian, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, Daniel Sloss.
Mm-mm.
He had a great analogy about life and finding your significant other, and life being like this whole jigsaw puzzle, right? And
right.
As you grow older, like you're trying to find this person who fits that puzzle piece perfectly, who fits into your jigsaw puzzle of life. But, as you grow older, the shapes of the puzzle change. And this is probably something you should look up and watch because it is great. It is a great analogy. And after people watched it, like there was like 50,000 divorces.
Whoa.
But yeah, a lot of people broke up because of this analogy because it's so real. So he said, you know, like as you grow, your puzzle pieces, they change and you're still trying to fit this one person that you're with into this mold. In your case, it could have been that older brother figure, right? You're still trying to fit in, but you know, you grow and your needs change, and so does your puzzle piece, your life. And it's okay for you to no longer have someone who fits into that mold, but you could always, you know, find someone who may potentially be that, and that may be right for you. But, you know, I guess the thing is it's ever changing, right? Your needs will always change as the years go on. And I think that is definitely what happened with you, especially, you know, when you grew older. You said, you know, you didn't need an older brother figure anymore, and you may potentially have one, but you know, your sense of wanting that older figure is gone, so to speak.
Right. I guess for the brother aspect, I think it morphed, right? The puzzle pieces changed, like you said. And I think it morphed into more like, I would really like a mentor, like someone who can guide me with all the things that I'm trying to do. Someone who's there, not just like me talking to someone online or something like that. Like I actually want to know them and want to have like a real relationship with them.
Yeah.
Like that's something I feel like I've always been seeking out through my 20s. And yeah, so perhaps it changed from wanting that older brother figure to that, like wanting a mentor. So definitely, I agree a lot with that analogy, because perhaps different people need different things at different times when in regards to this whole law of fulfillment thing we're talking about. Like maybe you don't really need that mentor figure if you're like really well off already. Maybe you don't need certain like people that you have intellectual conversations with because you've had too many or something like that, right? like you're good. But for me personally, I'm thinking this also can relate to how, like, you know how you said a lot of people broke up afterwards?
Right.
Maybe people sort of see it in a way, I mean, this is just my perspective, but so I'll just talk about it for myself. I don't want to see it in a way where I want my significant other to fill all of these different pieces in the puzzle, fill all of these holes that I'm looking for. I don't want them to like be my mentor or like be that person that I only have intellectual conversations with. I would like to have intellectual conversations with them, but like to have different people fulfill different needs in my life for what I want, I think would be a more ideal thing than to expect one person to somehow fulfill all of it.
Yeah. So I guess going back to the puzzle piece, everyone's shape is different, right? So yours isn't necessarily for your significant other. It's not necessarily someone who fills all of these different needs for all aspects of your life. So I guess it's just the way you view what you want in a partner, and what you value, right? In terms of fulfilling a need. So one of it could be filled by your family, your friends, whatever. But I think, you know, after seeing that, people realize like what I do want in a partner, what I do value in it is not being addressed or taken care of by my current significant other. And it's not something that I want to force them on, but it's also something. So one of the things he said is like, can I live with this for the rest of my life? Or do I waste like the years that I have now and figure it out with someone else for the rest of my life? It was something along those lines, right? And it was very impactful because it's like, do you keep wasting your time with this person who may never be able to fill your needs, or do you end it now and try and figure it out type of thing?
Right. Yeah, I totally understand. I think for my side of things, the way I see it, like, which can be dangerous, is I feel as if I have a lot of these pieces already filled by my friends. So I think that might be why I don't feel a great desire to actually find a significant other or find a girlfriend. Like, I feel like I'm good, you know, like, but at the same time, like I said, it could be dangerous because that could lead me to a sense of satisfaction or being lazy about it and not trying, and I do see myself wanting to eventually be with someone, right? So if I don't try and I don't do that, then I probably won't end up being with someone.
I guess you have to think about it, Scott, where it's like, what needs or values do you have that you're willing to I guess share, since all of your needs right now is being fulfilled by your friends, shared with your significant other, or you're okay with them being that person who fits your needs, right? And also like what are you looking for in a partnership? Are you looking for just compatibility? Are you looking for someone who will make you feel like you're not lonely anymore? Not saying that you do. Like these are just, hypotheticals, right?
Yeah.
Just things that you can think about when it comes to a significant other. I know this whole podcast turned into like a different
No. This
topic.
This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
But yeah, so like I think that it's very important to think about, what you want in a significant other, communicating that, and because what happens when your friend that is fulfilling one type of need is no longer doing that? What if what if they start a family, right? And you're now on the back burner and you're no longer their priority.
That's true. That's very true. I'll hound them for it, but like, you're the person I had intellectual conversations with now. Now you don't want to talk about anything but your kid.
Yeah. But as a friend, you have like no choice but to like respect that too, right? Because you want to be there for them.
I would never do that. But it's true. I guess like definitely certain roles will come and go. Like that's why I feel like for me, when my ex-girlfriend, who was my best friend at the time in 2017, when she stopped talking to me completely, like she used to be the person that fulfilled everything for me, most of it, right? So when she stopped, I became kind of depressed and really, really sad. Like there was a time period in 2017 where I just felt like everything was meaningless, and that all of the things that I did, it just felt like I had a weight on me that made everything worse, made everything feel darker. And eventually I would meet someone else that I vibed with like a great amount, and it sort of saved me from that. But if I never had that in the first place, if she never stopped talking to me in the first place, I would never have sought out other people. So it's sort of that effect where when it's needed, like the law of fulfillment, when you feel like you are not fulfilled, you will seek it out. So that's why for me right now, I feel fulfilled by my friends, but once they leave, I will eventually try to look for someone else to fulfill that role. That's sort of the way I viewed this whole thing and how it came about.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is you will just ditch your friends when they're not useful to you.
What? That's not what I said, Christine.
You heard it here first, guys.
No, you're the one who said that they're going to get busy with their families and they're going to ditch me. So I'm going to have no choice but to find someone else.
No, okay. In all seriousness, yes.
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think back in like my previous relationships with my friends, and definitely I think when I needed someone there, I would have to reach out, right? Because nobody's gonna know, nobody's gonna read your mind. So I definitely reached out to fulfill that need of having, a friendship, having company. So I definitely understand. So if someone's no longer there, you would find someone else who would fulfill that. And it's
Exactly.
basic. I think it's basic like support when you're down, when you're feeling lonely, and you're, reaching out a hand, saying I need help. Whoever is there will be the person that you get comfort in.
Very true. But I also thought of it because like the epiphany moment happened when I realized like one of my new friends, like I put too much on them. I was expecting too much from them. And it happened because I was slightly disappointed, but also like realizing that I shouldn't put it all on one person. And that's when I saw it as separate people fulfilling separate needs or different needs. Another aspect to it, when you do feel fulfilled by these different people, like how I do now, you should still try to push through and realize that this effect, or for me, I believe this effect is real. And so try to bypass it and think, let's still try to meet more people who potentially fulfill the same roles, but still realizing that, oh, just because I feel fulfilled doesn't mean I shouldn't try to meet more people. And don't let it stop you from essentially socializing and trying to, I guess for me, like find a significant other. like that's another thought that I had that I wanted to express, because I feel like it can be pretty important to understand and be aware that, yes, I feel this like sense of fulfillment, but I should try to push past it and keep going.
I think it's also, I think we briefly touched on this topic when we were in Big Bear. I think that was last week, actually.
Yeah, it was last week.
Which was, it is difficult for some people to really put themselves out there and get to know new people. It's also like a commitment thing, you know, the amount of effort you put in, you kind of expect it to be reciprocated. And it's difficult these days because you don't have that much time on your hands anymore. Like you have work and then you have to prioritize the people already in your life. And then you got to think about who I want to bring into my internal social circle that I want to give time to when my time is already so valuable, right? So I think, yes, you shouldn't let it stop yourself from having your needs fulfilled. But also I understand like it is difficult because I struggle with that today. Like I struggle with giving my time to others when I also value a lot of like alone time. And then I also value, you know, time with my family and time with my friends.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to have both perspectives, because I think for me, I have a innate feeling that I want to and that I like meeting new people continuously. But it's not the same for everyone else. Like clearly for you, you value more like of the people you care about now and want to spend time with them. So definitely different perspectives.
I think the thing is, I don't like small talk.
Yeah.
Like it's the beginning stages of getting to know someone that I would love to skip over. But also, like, you kind of need that, right? To be able to have, like, some banter and to feel out who they truly are.
You know, honestly, like, at first, when there was a lot of group chat stuff happening, college and after college, there was just so much chatting that was purely banter. And I would just, like, ignore it because I thought it was a waste of time. But, like, doing it in person is pretty fun.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it's the awkwardness of getting to know someone that I dislike. It's like, oh, hey, how are you? How do you know so-and-so? And what do you do? Type of thing. But you need that, I think.
Yeah, I think initially when you've never met them before, that can be good. But I think for me, I'm trying to think about strangers I've met recently. And they're mostly in settings where it's like kind of different. Like, during a short film set, I met new people. Yeah. And it's a little easier that way because you ask them about why they're there, you know? Like, is it for acting? Is it for camera work? You start talking about that stuff and you can relate almost instantly, or at least I can relate instantly because, you know, I mean, I haven't acted, but I've done stuff related to that. So it's fun to talk about those things. And to me, I don't really view it as small talk, actually. I just view it as getting to know the other person and sort of just asking questions for them to tell stories and stuff.
Yeah, I think what you're describing, I'm okay with. I think it's the more so the really like basic questions where you don't figure out like that person's personality or what they're like.
I see.
Which I can't give an example off the top of my head right now.
I feel like the most basic one is like, what do you do for work? Or how did you meet so-and-so who's the mutual friend, right?
Yeah, I guess. But also I know it's like difficult to ask someone like personal questions too right off the bat. I do love deep conversations because I do think that you can really figure out how a person's mind works that way. And I don't know if that sounds like terrible, but
no, not at all. That sounds perfectly fine. That's how I think the deeper stuff really tells a lot about what that person's been through, their experiences, how they perceive things, how they've processed things. And I think that's a very important conversation to have with any friend. I almost feel as if you haven't had conversations like that with a supposed like close friend, they're not truly a close friend. Like, those are the conversations that build up true bonds, I feel. Like,
it builds up trust. For sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have to think about that a bit more to really analyze it. I don't want to say like, oh, you don't have close friends because you've never had this conversation. It's really up to you. Everyone gets to choose who their close friends, who they call their close friends.
Right. But the different needs of different people.
Yeah. So I guess I got to learn how to rephrase myself better. I do not consider someone a close friend if I've never had conversations like that with them. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay. There you go.
Okay. So one of the last things I did want to get into that I mentioned in the beginning was I remember you saying how there are different friends and different people that fulfill different parts of your needs, right?
Right.
The one thing that I wanted to stray away from is saying that, like a friend or a family member fulfills like my specific type of need, because I think, and maybe this might sound selfish or whatnot, but I do think that I fulfill a lot of my own needs.
Oh, okay.
It's more of like, when someone wasn't there, then I would just be like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like it's something that I can do. And as you know, I'm a very analytical and logical type of person. So I'm not one to really wallow in any sort of emotion
self-pity.
for a very long time, right? Like I could 30 minutes, okay. Not that I give myself 30 minutes, but you know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to time this for 30 minutes if I'm not okay by then.
I know. But it's more like, what can pitying myself or trying to find someone to do things for me, what can it really do for me, right? Like I would have more value if I learn it or fulfill it myself. So a lot of the things I feel like in terms of needs, like I fulfill myself. For example, like if I'm bored, whatever, I could read, I could cook. Like these are things that make me happy, right? I do things that I think brings me joy and brings me fulfillment. Other than, hanging out with friends and family, whatnot, I do feel like a lot of my needs are met by my own sort of thinking and habits that I have.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I feel similarly. Like you don't necessarily need to have someone to fulfill an aspect in your life that is like, for instance, fun, right? Because I do have friends where most of the time I see them and hang out with them, and it's primarily just to hang out and have fun. And it's not like, oh, I don't think of them as more than that, but that's usually what happens, right? That's my observation of how we interact. We just go out and play stuff or have fun. But I don't necessarily need that person to be that person there all the time for me to have fun. It's sort of just like them fulfilling, or not fulfilling, it's almost like them being a person that increases that aspect of my life, and that's it.
It's like complementary.
Yeah. Complements that aspect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Better word. This is your podcast.
I got Scott to admit it, guys. It's true.
Yeah, but I think I primarily wanted to talk about this to convey those two lessons I mentioned earlier. One is that even if you do feel a sense of fulfillment from everyone around you, for me, I don't want it to let it get to me to the point where I don't want to meet more people. Or because I do think when I was in that dark place and that I felt like I had no one, and when I sorted out, that's when I created most of the really close friendships that I have today. And it really motivated me to do so because I felt like I had no one.
Yeah.
And to feel like I have it now and not try to make more can be for me, I just think it's like not the ideal feeling to have. So that's one of the lessons, and then the other one is sort of just like, don't expect one person to fulfill every role. Mm-hmm. That's the second one. And those are just two things I wanted to express primarily when I realized this sort of concept.
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. But the second thing, I think I really resonated with what you said for the first example, where when you were in a really depressed place and you now have, a lot of close friends. I think the people who really matter the most and who you should keep close with is the people that when you reach out to and say you need help or you're feeling a certain sort of way, when they go out of their way to make you feel better or to, help you in any sort of way, I think those are the people that are special, and
definitely
you should always value and keep close, because you can't find that in a lot of places. A lot of people will just be like, okay, like I'll help you on my own time.
Yeah, agreed. Very much agreed. And thank you so much for coming on, Christine. This was a really good conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Catch me
hosting episode 9, guys.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your stories about your mom too. Like I really enjoy those.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, guys. Christine will be back eventually.
Talk to you guys later.
See you guys. Yep, you'll be back, right?